Ever wonder what makes those endurance legends tick?
Yeah.
You know, like, what are they doing that we're not?
Right.
Well, today, we are taking you behind the scenes of Kilian Jornet's training.
We're talking 11-time Zagama champ,
11?
multiple Everest speed records.
Yeah.
This is like a full-on deep dive into the mind and methods of a true mountain running icon.
And the best part is, we're not just looking at like, oh, here's his race results.
Right, exactly.
We've got his Strava insights, training logs from his blog, even like his personal philosophy on pushing human limits.
And that's what I think is so fascinating about this. We're not just talking about like the physical training, but like the mental game as well, you know?
It's like we have a backstage pass to greatness.
Exactly.
But here's the thing, and this is important for our listeners. This isn't just for like aspiring mountain goats, right?
No, absolutely not.
Like whether you're out there chasing PRs or just trying to level up your own training, Kilian's approach has something for everyone.
It does, because at its core, it's about this understanding of the interconnectedness of everything that contributes to performance.
Okay, so it's like a holistic approach.
Yes. And Kilian actually visualizes this as a pyramid.
Oh, interesting.
He's adapted Steven Seiler's pyramid of endurance training needs.
Okay, so let's unpack this pyramid for a second.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about crushing workouts, right?
No, not at all. It's much more than that. Think of it this way. Those jaw-dropping race wins, right?
Yeah.
Those are at the peak of the pyramid, right? But that peak, it's supported by this massive foundation.
Have that base.
And Kilian is so meticulous about building that foundation, starting with what he calls the bedrock, circadian rhythms, stress management, and nutrition.
So it's like before you even lace up your shoes, there's this whole other level of preparation most people don't even see.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about the groundwork.
So how does he actually put this into practice? Like, what does that look like in his day-to-day life?
So he's incredibly intentional about his daily life, minimizing travel to avoid messing with his routines, even having his team manage media requests to protect his training and family time.
Wow, that's next level.
It is. And he's created this like training camp environment right at home, like really emphasizing the stability of those routines.
Makes sense, right? Imagine trying to perform at your peak when you're like jet lagged or stressed out of your mind.
Exactly.
But what about nutrition? We all know that's like crucial for athletes, but it sounds like Kilian takes it to a whole other level.
He really does. He uses scientific data to fine-tune his calorie intake.
What? Like, how does he even...
He does things like double-labeled water testing to understand his expenditure down to the calorie.
That's insane.
It's wild. And it's not just about carbs and protein. He adjusts based on inflammation levels, even gut bacteria.
Wow. Talk about next level. Forget carb loading. This is science loading.
Seriously.
But I think this brings up a good point for our listeners. Are you treating your body like a high-performance machine?
Right.
Are you paying attention to the bedrock of your training?
It's fundamental.
Because that's where it all begins.
Exactly. You've got to have that solid base.
And this leads us to the next level of the pyramid, building that base.
Exactly. And this is where Kilian's approach gets really intriguing, particularly his emphasis on cross-training, especially during the winter months.
Okay, so let's talk cross-training. Because it's not just about hopping on the elliptical when you're bored, right?
Yeah, no.
For Kilian, there's a very specific reason he prioritizes this, especially skimo.
Yeah, he's super strategic about it.
So, like, break it down for us.
He views running as high impact.
Yes, it is.
It is, and all those miles, they take a toll.
Oh, yeah.
So skimo becomes this incredible tool for him to maintain fitness while giving his body a break from the constant pounding.
It's like hitting the reset button without actually, hitting the couch.
Exactly. You're still active, but in a different way.
And he's able to rack up some serious volume this way.
He is, because he's said that it's much easier to sustain those long aerobic efforts on skis.
Interesting.
You still get the endurance benefits without the same mechanical stress on your joints.
It's genius, really. Like, he's found a way to hack the system, get that volume without trashing his body.
Right, he's working smarter, not harder.
But it's not just about reducing impact, right? He's also building some serious engine capacity with those skimo sessions.
Absolutely. He spends hours in what's known as Zone 2, that sweet spot for building aerobic base.
I've heard of that.
And this is key for anyone, whether you're training for a marathon or just trying to improve your overall fitness.
Got it. Zone 2, we'll come back to that.
Definitely.
But it sounds like Kilian's onto something with this whole cross-training thing.
He is. And it's not just about physical benefits either. He said that cross-training, especially activities like skimo, helps him connect with the natural rhythms of the year, adapting to the changing seasons.
It's like he's working with nature, not against it.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it.
We're starting to see a pattern here. Kilian's not just about pushing limits, he's about doing it in a way that's sustainable, enjoyable, and even harmonious with his environment.
It's a very holistic approach.
This is where things get really interesting.
They do. But before we dive into the specifics of his weekly training, let's take a closer look at why cross-training is so vital for him. Because it's about more than just mixing things up.
Right, it's strategic.
It's about building a foundation for a long and healthy athletic career.
All right, so we're going beyond just physical conditioning here.
Yeah.
We're talking about long-term athletic longevity. Let's dive in. So we're talking about like building a career here.
Yes.
Not just like crushing a single season.
Exactly, longevity. It really solidified this importance of cross-training for injury prevention.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
You know, when he's out there skimoing, he's still maintaining that fitness, building the engine, but he's giving his body a break from the high-impact pounding of running.
Yeah.
It's preventative maintenance.
Yeah. It's like you take your car in for an oil change, right?
Oh,
You
yeah.
don't wait till it breaks down on the side of the road.
Exactly. You got to stay ahead of it.
So cross-training isn't just about building fitness.
Right.
It's about protecting it,
100%.
which makes total sense, especially for anyone who's, ever been sidelined by an injury.
Oh, yeah.
Been there. But let's get practical for a second.
Yep.
What does this actually look like in his training? Like, paint us a picture.
So picture this. It's winter. The mountains are blanketed in snow.
Okay, I'm there.
And Kilian's putting in some serious hours. I'm talking, like, we're looking at a sample week he shared. 30 hours of training.
30 hours. Okay, hold on. This is winter we're talking about.
Winter, that can't all be running right.
You're right. Most of that volume is coming from skimo. Makes sense.
Those long, steady efforts we talked about. He's building that aerobic base, but without hammering his joints.
Smart.
You might get in 1 or 2 easy runs,
Okay.
sometimes even on the treadmill,
See, even Kilian Jornet uses a treadmill sometimes.
every now and then.
It's all about choosing the right tool for the job.
Exactly. But 30 hours, that's still a massive commitment.
It is, yeah.
How do you think he manages that kind of volume without completely burning out?
I mean, that's what I want to know. What's the secret?
He listens to his body.
Okay, important.
And, this is crucial, he analyzes his data.
Okay, so data-driven training.
He tracks metrics like training load and base fitness religiously.
Okay, those are two terms that get thrown around a lot, but let's break it down for our listeners, who might not be familiar with them.
Yeah.
What do those actually mean?
So think of training load like a stress gauge for your body.
Okay.
It takes into account both how much and how hard you're training, giving you this numerical value of the load you're putting on your system.
Got it.
And base fitness, that's like your body's battery life. It reflects how prepared you are to handle that stress based on the past few weeks of training.
Okay, that makes sense. So essentially, Kilian's monitoring his stress level and his battery life to make sure he's not, pushing himself into the red zone.
Exactly. Especially during those high volume periods, he wants to build that base gradually and sustainably, avoiding those overuse injuries.
He's playing the long game.
Long game.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all of this ties together.
It's all connected.
It's about working smarter, not just harder. Okay, so we've got the foundation, the cross-training, the data.
Yeah.
But what about when it's go time? What does his training look like when he's gearing up for a big race?
That's when we see a dramatic shift.
Okay, tell me more.
The snow melts, the trails beckon, and Kilian transitions into, shall we say, beast mode.
Laughs beast mode activated, but seriously, what actually changes?
Everything flips. Volume goes down, intensity ramps up, and the focus shifts to race-specific workouts.
Okay, now you're speaking my language.
We're talking like long, grueling mountain runs.
Yeah.
Hill repeats that would make your quads scream.
Yeah.
And speed sessions that are just, well, Kilian-esque.
Okay, now I'm on the edge of my seat. Give me the details. What does a typical week look like in quote-unquote beast mode?
Let's break it down. Let's look at a sample week from his blog. Mondays are for those lung-busting long runs.
Okay.
Think 40 kilometers or so.
40K, just another casual Monday for Kilian Jornet, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's building that endurance base and getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, you gotta embrace the suck.
You do. And then Tuesdays get spicy.
Oh, how spicy are we talking?
A 20-minute uphill threshold workout,
Oh,
followed by, you guessed it, more running.
of course. Gotta love those two-a-days.
He might tack on another 20 kilometers, sometimes with some faster bursts sprinkled in.
I'm noticing a theme here. Even on his easy days,
Yeah.
there's a lot of running going
A
on.
lot of running, but it's all about that balance, that recovery. He needs to be fresh enough to hit those key workouts hard.
Yeah, you can't go hard all the time.
Exactly. Got to have that balance.
Which brings us to Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Typically, it's back to those long, steady runs.
Okay.
But he might swap one of those days out for like a mountain adventure, like scrambling or climbing.
So even in peak training mode,
Yeah.
he's incorporating that element of cross-training, just pure enjoyment of the mountains.
Exactly. Gotta love what you do.
It's like he's reminding himself why he loves this sport in the first place.
Absolutely. Finding that balance between pushing limits and nurturing your passion.
Love that. Okay, I'm hooked. What about Fridays? More hill torture.
You know it. Fridays are for those long threshold workouts.
Bring it on!
They 2 sets of 15 to 16 minutes uphill, maintaining that challenging but sustainable pace. He's pushing his aerobic system to the max, but not completely redlining it.
Walking that line.
Exactly. And then Saturdays,
Surely a rest day after all that, right?
active recovery is the name of the game.
Okay.
Maybe an hour of easy movement just to flesh out those legs and prepare for Sunday.
Okay, Sunday, the day we've all been waiting for.
The big one.
Time for some speed work, right?
You got it. Sundays are for unleashing that inner speed demon.
Let's go.
He'll typically do 10 repetitions of 400 meters at threshold pace on a flat surface.
So like track work.
Exactly. This is where he fine-tunes that top-end speed that he needs to dominate on race day.
So there you have it.
Ooh.
A glimpse into the training week of a true running legend.
A true inspiration.
It's this blend of like brutal volume, calculated intensity, strategic recovery,
Yeah.
all orchestrated to push the limits of human performance.
And, it's important to remember, this is just one piece of the puzzle. What makes Kilian so fascinating is how he combines this intense training with that rock-solid foundation we talked about.
Right.
The sleep, the nutrition, the mindset. It's the complete package.
Okay, so for those of us listening who, maybe aren't elite mountain athletes,
Right.
how can we apply this information to our own training?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And I think it comes down to a few key takeaways.
Okay, I'm listening.
First, take a page from Kilian's book and start paying attention to your own training data.
Okay.
You don't need a fancy GPS watch.
Right.
Even tracking mileage and how you feel. That can reveal some really valuable insights.
It's about becoming a student of your own training.
Exactly. Second, remember that more isn't always better. Think about the impact of your chosen activities and adjust your training load accordingly.
So just because you can handle a certain volume in one sport
Yeah.
doesn't mean you can handle the same in another.
Exactly. Listen to your body. Don't be afraid to dial it back when you need to, especially when you're transitioning between activities.
Okay, that's good advice. And what about Kilian's strategic use of intensity? How can we incorporate that?
That's where periodization comes in.
Okay.
Just like Kilian shifts his training focus through the year, we can all benefit from incorporating different phases of training.
Okay.
Maybe it's building that aerobic base in the winter, then adding in more intensity and race-specific workouts as your goal event approaches.
So find your inner Kilian and build your own training pyramid.
Exactly.
I love it. Well, we've covered a ton of ground today.
Really have.
From the philosophy behind Kilian's approach to the nitty-gritty details of his training data.
It's fascinating stuff.
Any final words of wisdom for our listeners before we wrap things up?
At the end of the day, training should be enjoyable.
Yeah.
Kilian's passion for the mountains, it shines through in everything he does.
Oh, totally.
So, find what you love, train with intention, and never stop exploring your own potential.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the training secrets of Kilian Jornet. Until next time, keep those legs moving, those minds engaged, and those adventurous spirits alive.